Forget your image of dusty mummies and crumbling tombs for a second. What if you could step back 3,500 years, not as a common farmer sweating under the Egyptian sun, but as one of the elite? Imagine waking up not to an alarm clock, but to the gentle stirring of servants, sunlight filtering through fine linen curtains, the scent of incense already in the air. Today, we're peeling back the gilded layers of ancient Egypt to uncover the daily reality of the 1%. The nobles, the high priests, the pharaoh's favored officials. Was it all golden luxury and lounging by the Nile? Or was there more to it? Stick around, because some parts of their day might genuinely surprise you. The sun god Ra begins his journey across the sky, and for our wealthy Egyptian, let's call him Nakht, the day starts long before the heat becomes oppressive. He sleeps not on a simple reed mat, but a finely crafted wooden bed, perhaps inlaid with ivory or ebony, raised off the floor to avoid pests. Soft cushions and linen sheets provide comfort unknown to the average Egyptian. Servants enter silently. One brings a basin of cool water for washing hands and face. Another lays out his clothing, not rough-spun wool, but the finest, near-transparent white linen kilt, pleated to perfection. Depending on his rank and the day's activities, he might also wear a more elaborate tunic or cloak. Forget throwing on sweatpants. Getting dressed was a statement. But before Nakht even thinks about breakfast, there's grooming. Both men and women of the elite class took appearance very seriously. A servant might help Nakht apply kohl eyeliner, not just for beauty, but believed to ward off eye infections and the harsh sun glare. Perfumed oils, made from exotic flowers and resins, would be rubbed onto the skin. And the hair. Often the head was shaved for cleanliness and coolness, and intricate wigs made from human hair or plant fibers were worn instead. These weren't cheap throwaway wigs. They were status symbols, carefully styled and maintained. Think of it as the ancient equivalent of a designer haircut, but way more elaborate. Breakfast isn't a rushed affair. Nakht likely dines in a pleasant airy room or even an open courtyard in his large villa. Forget dry bread and onions, the staples of the poor. His table groans with variety. Fresh bread made from emmer wheat, honey, dates, figs, perhaps some roasted waterfowl caught the day before, milk, and maybe even wine or beer, though beer was the more common daily drink for all classes. He might eat alone, attended by servants, or perhaps with his wife, who enjoys similar luxuries. Now, what about the 9 to 5? Well, for someone like Nakht, it wasn't about manual labor. If he's a high-ranking official, his morning might involve heading to the administrative center or even the royal palace. Here, he'd oversee scribes recording taxes, manage granaries, a source of immense wealth and power, dictate letters, resolve disputes, or advise the pharaoh or a regional governor. Imagine running a massive corporation, but with papyrus scrolls instead of spreadsheets, and the fate of harvests and people hanging in the balance. If Nakht were a high priest, his duties would revolve around the temple complex, a huge economic and spiritual hub. He'd oversee rituals, manage temple estates and workshops, and ensure the gods were properly appeased. This wasn't just spiritual, it was deeply political and essential for maintaining cosmic order, or ma'at. Failure meant potential disaster for everyone. So, while not physically taxing, the mental load and responsibility were immense. You might think managing people today is tough. Try keeping a god happy. Perhaps Nakht is a wealthy landowner, his riches derived from vast agricultural estates along the Nile. His morning might involve inspecting his fields, checking on irrigation canals, overseeing the army of farmers and laborers who actually do the work and ensuring his stewards are managing resources effectively. He wouldn't be plowing himself, but his presence and decisions directly impacted the productivity and his income. Around midday, as the sun reaches its zenith, activity slows. It's time for the main meal, often richer than breakfast. Roasted meats like beef, goat, or antelope might feature, alongside more fowl, fish from the Nile, a profusion of vegetables like lentils, onions, garlic, cucumbers, and plenty of bread and beer. Again, servants attend to every need, pouring wine, offering water for washing hands between courses. Remember, forks weren't really a thing. The afternoon could bring more administrative tasks, but often included leisure time, something utterly unimaginable for the common folk. Nacht's villa wouldn't just be a house, it would be a sprawling compound. Picture lush, walled gardens with shaded pathways, pools filled with lotus flowers, maybe even for swimming, and comfortable seating areas to escape the heat. He might relax here, perhaps playing a game of sonnet, a popular board game that was more than just entertainment. It was believed to have connections to the journey into the afterlife. How's that for high-stakes gaming? He might also receive visitors, other nobles discussing politics, business, or arranging marriages. Social networking was crucial for maintaining status and influence. Or perhaps he'd indulge in inspecting the work of craftsmen attached to his household, carpenters making fine furniture, jewelers crafting intricate pieces, weavers producing delicate linen. Quality control, ancient Egyptian style. As evening approaches, preparations begin for another highlight, the feast or evening meal. This could be a family affair or a larger banquet with guests. If guests were invited, it was a chance to display wealth and generosity. Tables would be laden with even more food than at midday. Think multiple courses, exotic dishes, the best cuts of meat, imported wines, and the entertainment essential. Musicians would play harps, lutes, and flutes. Dancers, often scantily clad, would perform graceful or energetic routines. Acrobats might tumble and contort, and singers would recount tales of gods and heroes. It was a multi-sensory experience designed to impress and delight. Servants moved discreetly, ensuring wine cups were never empty and guests were comfortable, often placing fragrant cones of perfumed wax on guests' heads, which would slowly melt, releasing scent and moisturizing the wig or hair. Yes, you heard that right. Cones of melting fat on your head as perfume. Fashion was different back then. Hygiene remained important. Before the evening meal, or even during a banquet, servants would offer water for washing. Cleanliness was associated with purity, both physically and spiritually. Wealthy Egyptians had dedicated bathing areas, sometimes quite elaborate, a far cry from a quick dip in the Nile for the commoners. Finally, as the stars emerge, the day winds down. Nacht might spend some quiet time with his family, perhaps listening to stories or discussing the day's events. He would prepare for bed, again assisted by servants, removing his wig and coal, perhaps applying moisturizing oils. His bedroom, lit by flickering oil lamps, would be secured for the night. Life was undoubtedly luxurious. Fine food, comfortable living, plentiful leisure, beautiful objects, and immense power compared to the average Egyptian. But it wasn't necessarily idle. Maintaining that position required managing estates, navigating complex social and political landscapes, fulfilling religious duties, and constantly demonstrating status. There were pressures, responsibilities, and the ever-present need to stay in favor with those higher up, especially the pharaoh. One wrong move could potentially lead to disgrace or ruin. So, While the daily life of a wealthy ancient Egyptian was filled with comforts and privileges beyond the wildest dreams of most people alive at the time, it was also a life lived within a strict social structure, demanding responsibilities, and its own unique set of pressures. It was a world away from the backbreaking labor that built the pyramids, but it was still a life lived under the watchful eyes of the gods and the pharaoh. What part of Nakt's day surprised you the most? Let me know down in the comments. If you enjoyed this glimpse into ancient luxury, hit that like button and subscribe for more journeys into the past. Thanks for watching.